All right. So, I want to talk about something that I was thinking about today. It's not the first time I've thought about it, I don't believe, but um, I think it's just more clear today, or it's important that I say it today because I just was thinking about it, and I don't want to wait till it comes around again. I just want to talk about it now. Um, and that is the fact that Egypt is inside of you instead of you, or instead of Egypt being outside of you. As I was saying in one of my previous videos, that um, the writings are written on your cell walls, and I don't think I actually put that in the video because I think I left that part out. But the writings on the walls, just like the writings on the walls in the pyramids, I'm trying to look directly into the camera, but on the writings on the walls on the pyramids are written on your cell walls, and I was talking about how I was able to see this in my blood because I had sun gaze all day that day, and I was doing it in a way that allowed me to have like it's gonna sound crazy, but have like my blood coming in my eyes. It was blood in my eyes. It had nothing to do with the me looking at the sun because I had looked at the sun countless times before. It had nothing to do with that. It was just the way I was doing it. But I don't want to go into that because that'll be a whole story by itself. But that's how I came into the realization that it was writings on your cell walls as well. I mean, yeah, your cell walls as well as the walls in the actual pyramids in Egypt. Um, and by the time I was actually looking at the hieroglyphics, we'll call them hieroglyphics because that's what they are. But by the time I was looking at the hieroglyphics, I had actually had my eyes closed. Like I was meditating at this point. Like it was like a very interesting, like almost shamanic experience where I was looking at these writings on the walls, and yeah, that's how I came to do that. But I wanted to talk about how Egypt is actually inside of you, and what it represents. And believe it or not, Egypt is actually connected to the Garden of Eden, and I'll explain why. Um, for one, it's in the same area because Egypt represents or talks about a lot the cycles that we go through, death and rebirth. And one of the major things in Egyptian, I guess, symbolism, I don't know if I can call it a religion because if I do, I don't know if that's the correct name of the religion. But in the symbolism, what you have is you have um, Maya, who represents like the scales and the weighing of the soul on the scales. Like your heart has to be lighter than the feather. And what I came to the realization of is that's Libra. And where Libra is in the body is the kidneys, and which is an air sign, and you have to basically be balanced, and that's close to your sacral chakra. I tie it all in. If this is your first time watching me, I tie everything in because everything is connected. But that's your sacral chakra, and that represents all the patterns. And a lot of people don't get beyond their they don't get beyond that level of understanding because the chakras themselves are consciousness. 444. They are consciousness. They are levels of consciousness where your mind, where your focus, where your consciousness exists, where it stays until you do make the conscious effort to rise it up. And you can spend an entire lifetime doing that, or lifetimes, multiple lifetimes, doing that over and over again without knowing. But you eventually come into knowledge, and you start to notice that you are making these patterns. And in making these patterns, you start to try to figure out why are you making these patterns and how can you get out of these patterns. So that's what that is. That's what like raising your consciousness up. That's what I've come to understand, and many people have come to understand. But we are the Egyptians, and we exist in a hidden way, in a hidden dimension. The hidden dimension is inside of us. Like we look out and we see this outer world, but we don't acknowledge the fact that there's a hidden dimension inside of us, and the hidden dimension inside of us has life in it. And all your religious texts, everything is based on what's going on inside of you. But we're not told that. And we don't understand that because we're not told that. But we have to come to the understanding that we have to come to the understanding that that's basically what it is. And everything that we see outside of here is a projection. This is Egypt again. Like the pyramid, this represents the pyramid. This represents the top of the pyramid. This is the capstone. This is your capstone. And your capstone, basically, you are projecting out an image of the world. And it's based on what's going on inside of you. So if you're stuck in a cycle of death and rebirth, and you are unbalanced, then you are at the Egyptian level where you where others have ascended and left this world, left this consciousness. You are still in the same consciousness. And people can exist on different consciousness levels and be in the same world. That's something that we don't necessarily talk about. Like we look to like external things, and we think that someone has to leave the world to be of a different consciousness than us, but that's not true. And we call it intelligence, but that's not necessarily the only thing that it is, because intelligence could be intelligence of the world, like knowing what the world is. And you can know what the world is and still be in the cycle of death and rebirth, because you don't have knowledge of self. Knowledge of self is very important. But that's really what I've come to understand. And something that I kind of, this is something that I kind of thought of as I was pressing the button to record. But I also thought about it earlier, but I don't want to use that as an example. I want to use this. I don't think that the Egyptian kings were necessarily of this level. I don't think they were of this level. I believe that I want to use the correct words. I want to say that their consciousness was still on the same level, but there were certain elements, and I talked about this in the Caduceus video. There were certain elements that were controlling their bodies that basically poked out of their forehead, that made them seem like they were connected to something higher when they weren't necessarily connected to something higher. Something inside of them made them appear like they were higher than other people when they really weren't. They were basically on the same level. And this is what the world is today, and this is what we think today. I mean, this is our present condition today. Like we exist in this world, but we aren't hold on. We aren't on the level of consciousness that we think we are. Like we don't necessarily think up here. If you think up here, you will know it. Trust me. There will be no mistake there will be no mistake in it. Like you will know that you're thinking up here when you're thinking up here. We don't think up here as a people. Like there are certain people that do think up here on this level, but you'll know them when you see them. Like you'll recognize certain things that are similar, that stand out to you. And you will attract people who are on the same level of consciousness as you. So if you have people who aren't even talking about spiritual stuff, then more than likely they're not on that level. If they can't have a conversation with you about spiritual stuff, then they're not on that level. And it's not in the sense of hierarchy. I'm not talking about it like that. Not talking about it like that at all. I'm just saying that they're not on that level because they probably are unaware of it, unaware of the fact that there is, something different about the world than we know, or that we are taught that actually exists. Which is so weird. But I want to say that the Egyptian kings were on a ego level where they were kings in this world. They're in the inner world. Again, like at your soul, at your sacral level, they will be kings because they are higher than the solar plexus. I mean, they're higher than the sacral chakra. So the sacral chakra, they're at the solar plexus level, so they will be kings, which is why Egyptian statues are like gold and they're of like a bright yellow color because they are on that level of consciousness. They are basically kings in this world, and that's why I say they have the snake. They have the snakes coming out their forehead, and this is why they say that the Garden of Eden, the Bible, is connected to the Egyptians because what was in the garden? Snakes. So, and the snakes controlled and the snakes started talking to Eve, and I don't know if they talked to Adam, but they talked to Eve, and Eve was they talked to Eve, and I forgot where I was going with that, but I want to say that they talked to the Egyptian kings, and they were controlling them, telling them that they were higher than other people, and that since they were, I guess, a little bit more intelligent, and they had, whatever it is that made them more special than other people, and they were able to rule over the people because they were of a higher level of consciousness. They were raised higher than these people who are on the sacral chakra, who are basically in a state of death and rebirth. This is so interesting. It's just a good example of this is how celebrities are aware of this. Certain celebrities, I wouldn't even say certain. I would say probably all celebrities are aware of this. How they are of a different consciousness than people who are on basically a constant cycle of death and rebirth. They're on a different consciousness level, and they're allowed to, look at the world different, and they are able to ascend to another level, or they have ascended to another level based on the knowledge of self. Now, I'm not saying that they have complete knowledge of self, because I'm not sure if they do, but I'm just saying that their level of consciousness is a little bit higher than most people, which is something that is known. But also, I'll probably talk about that in another video, how your Jesus or people like that will be a little bit higher because, again, as I said, Jesus represents the heart. Jesus represents love. So if Jesus represents love, he's clearly above, the Egyptian kings, which is why, thank you. This is why Moses himself was like higher than the Egyptian king. I can't remember which king it was, but this is why he was able to do more than them, and he was able to do better magic than their magi's, because he actually had more. He had a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of understanding, and interestingly enough, he carried a staff, which is basically your spine. So your heart is connected. I mean, your spine's connected to all of it, but your heart is connected to that. And he basically had knowledge of self. So basically, that signified that he was on a higher level, and he had knowledge that allowed him to be on a higher level. Like every time he did something, he did it with the staff because he knew that he had to raise his level of consciousness up to a certain level to be able to do it. So that's why he was able to do the things that he was able to do, and the reason why he was in a sense more powerful than the Egyptian kings and the magi's that they sent to, you know, try to stop him or whatever. But yeah, I just really want to share that. I hope it makes sense. I rarely share something like this, like information in this way, where I'm not kind of like thought about it more. But I feel like this is like a good starting point, if not the the best way to really present this information. But with that being said, I love you, and I hope that you have a good evening, day.